It's funny when you posted the other day on the socials about a movie that's so disturbing that you'll never watch it again. And it's funny because my mind immediately jumped to all the like horror movies, but you didn't specify horror movie. And a lot of people didn't put horror movies. And I think that's so funny to me
Yeah.
that especially like animated shows seem to come up a few times, I've noticed. What have we got here? My sister, she put Watership Down.
That's fair.
So valid. For those of you who are like, I don't know, Watership Down's been out a very long time because even my mom was familiar with the story when she was young. If you've ever seen the animated Watership Down movie, oh my God, terrifying. My mom put Salem's Lot, which is a classic.
Yeah.
And I had a feeling she would comment that. She's been telling us how she was scared of that since she was a little kid. One of those for her where she watched it way too long, or sorry, too young, not too long. And the part that always terrified her is when the vampires come through the floor.
Yeah.
Because they're in the kitchen and they're like, no, it's safe in here. It's safe in here. And then it's like, no, you're not.
I've seen that clip, but I've never seen that movie.
Same.
And I like posting these because a lot of the time people will say certain movies and I'm just like, okay, I'm going to add that to my list, not adding that to my list. We got a few for The Hills Have Eyes.
So I've never seen the original, the OG, but I have seen the newer ones. And I will say, yeah, they just turned my stomach, I think, really.
Well, there's a horrible, assault scene in the first one.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing that when I was really young. And I was just like, no.
I think I was probably in like grade 7 or 8. It definitely would have been one of the ones that we me and my besties rented on like a Friday night kind of thing.
Same here.
Quite a few people said a Serbian film, which again, I've never seen. And I think I'd like to keep it that way from what I've heard.
I read the synopsis.
That's all I need to know.
Yeah.
Honestly. Couple of Human Centipedes. Again, not one I've seen and for good reason, but it's on the list for a good reason. But a couple more. Let's see.
I have one. Hold on. I just need to. 120 Days of Sodom.
Oh, I've never even heard of that one.
Read the synopsis.
Lord.
That is one. I think for me, that and a Serbian film are two that I don't think you could pay me to watch them.
No, that's just sort of torture material for your eyeballs and ears, I think. And again, I haven't watched them and I'm not planning and intending on watching them. But to me, I watch, or I guess I consume content, whether it's movies or TV shows or music or video games or podcasts or what have you, as almost either a way to be educated, to learn something new, or to escape the day-to-day depression of life and on all the things that can come along with that. And so to me, watching a horror film can be escapism in a way, I 100% think, but not that level. To me, you're just it's masochistic at that point.
Oh, absolutely.
I think, to traumatize yourself that way.
Do you have a movie that you've seen that you'll never watch again?
Mine, I think this is like a really, really silly childhood one, and I didn't even finish it. I think the movie was called The Terror Express.
Oh.
And it's an old Hammer film. They were a studio in the UK in the 60s, 70s that created all the Dracula films and stuff. And it's got Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing in it. And they're these scientists and they find a frozen caveman and then they put it on this train to bring it back to be studied. And on the train, it defrosts and it's like a monster that melts your brain by looking into your eyeballs. And that completely terrified me because I watched it at about 9 years old. My dad was watching it.
When the way you were talking about it, I thought it was a children's movie until you said monster that thaws.
Yeah, and there's the first scene. It's I can't remember exactly, but one of the porters on the train, they I don't know, it's staring at them and they start bleeding from the eyeballs. And I was like, nope, can't get that out of my memory ever again. And it stuck with me. It's not a scary film. It's just a cheesy 70s, exactly what you imagine for a Christopher Lee film of the time. But it stuck with me as a kid. What about you?
The Boy in the Striped Pajamas.
Oh, God, yes.
I saw it without knowing how it ends.
Oh.
And I say this all the time. I'm not a crier. I was bawling my eyes out. And it's one of those movies where you shut it off and then you kind of just have to sit there and contemplate what you've just seen. And Yeah, that's one I would never watch
There's
again.
definitely ones on my list because I hate to, like, sit and cry
Mhm.
because I'm not a crier, I don't like to do things like that. But anything that's like, yeah, Boy in the Striped Pajamas, like, Old Yeller comes to
Oh,
mind.
Marley and Me.
Oh, yeah, anything where there's a really sad and tragic animal death, obviously. Oh, I mean, there's entertaining things that you watch, and it's not necessarily disturbing, but you're like, "Yeah, no, I that's it.
Yep.
I'm good with a one watch of that or
Mhm.
whatever," but it's yeah, less so the horror movies, more so just the things that make me feel things I don't wanna feel.
Yeah. And you listeners, do you have a movie that you've seen that you will never watch again? Let us know, thegrimcurriculum at
Yeah.
gmail.com. What movie is it and
I
why?
wanna know the opinions, and it
Yes.
doesn't like I say, it doesn't have to be horror.
No, clearly.
Cody actually, before we left, I'm just gonna throw this in at the end before we get going. Cody said for him it was the one Winnie the Pooh movie with the heffalumps, the evil
Mhm.
heffalumps, and on the same note, Dumbo with the pink elephants on
I could
parade.
see Dumbo.
I
Yeah.
was like, "What do you got against, like, elephants, man?" He's like, "I just don't like them when they're coked at and coming at you."
Yep. Hello, everyone. I'm Dina.
And I'm Charlotte.
Welcome to the Grim Curriculum Extra Credit.
Welcome, welcome.
Speaking of movies,
Yeah.
I have a story about a movie.
Oh, go off, queen.
So, the movie Final Destination Bloodlines
Mhm.
has just come out.
It has, yes. I've been seeing all the fun, wacky, and shocking marketing
Mhm.
material that's come out around it.
Now, this is not marketing
Oh, dear.
because a group of theater goers watching the movie experienced a real life plot twist straight out of the film's script when the ceiling caved in.
Oh, no!
So, this was in Argentina,
Jesus.
and there is a woman who was celebrating her birthday.
Oh my god. For all of the, like, stars to align,
Mhm.
you'd never leave your house again.
No, she brought along her 11-year-old daughter to see the film, which
I don't know if I
take
agree
that
with
how you
that.
will.
Yeah, okay. Okay, that's a lot. Yep.
So, the tickets on that particular day were cheaper than any other time.
Okay.
So she's like, "Let's go, let's watch the movie. It's my
Mhm,
birthday." The
mhm.
movie was nearly over when she says, "There was a really loud noise. At first, we thought it was a part of the movie because we were so absorbed, but then a huge piece fell on me."
Holy cow.
So she basically heard like a giant crash and she was hit on the knee. And luckily, she was leaning to kind of the left of her armrest. If she hadn't
Oh.
been, it would have hit her in the head.
Oh, no. I think oh, man, and the thing is, would that have been bad PR for the movie or good PR for the
That's a good
movie? I
question.
think, honestly, coulda gone either way, really.
Mhm.
Holy
So
cow.
the unfortunate thing is she has had to take time off from work.
Yeah, no
She
kidding.
is a custodian at a local bar and she tried to talk to the theater to be like, "Well, what are you guys going to do about
Oh,
this? I've had
yeah.
to miss work now."
This is unsafe.
And they said, "How do you want to fix this?" And she lost her temper and said, "How do I want to fix this? I'm going to file a complaint. Just imagine if they hit my daughter in the head. They're
Mhm.
irresponsible." She says, "I have a hard time being in crowded places.
Oh,
I haven't been to the
no.
movies in years. I went because it was my birthday, and look at what happened to me."
Well, yeah, it's exactly like I said, she's never gonna go to another movie ever again.
Yeah, she has severe anxiety and she undergoes panic attacks. And this was her one way of trying to get past those feelings and work through the anxiety. And the ceiling fell in on her.
Talk
So,
about exposure therapy in the
yep,
most unexpected way, and holy cow, what a coincidence for it to just be Final
I
Destination.
know.
How many have you seen them?
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
same,
Love
same.
those movies. I'm gonna see this one too. I hope nothing falls on me. But it's one of those things where you hear this and it really is the stars aligning. Because
Mhm.
if it was any other movie,
You probably wouldn't think much. In fact, this news headline would not have even probably reached our eyeballs.
no, if it happened during, like, Moana, like, I mean, unless it fell on a bunch of kids, that's pretty
I
terrible,
mean,
but
awful, but
yeah, like, this is something else.
what a
I love
coincidence.
it. I read this, yesterday night because this just happened,
Mhm.
and I thought I had everything ready for the show, and this morning I woke up and I'm like, "I'm adding this shit
You
in."
gotta. My first topic of the day was, basically the answer to a question I didn't know I had until recently, and that is, can you ski or snowboard down Mount Everest?
Hmm.
Turns out you can.
Oh.
So today we're going to be talking about a fella called Marco Siffredi. He was a French snowboarder and mountaineer, a very, very experienced mountaineer snowboarder. He started out skiing, decided to switch to snowboarding, and he snowboarded down some of the most biggest, famous, infamous, dangerous slopes in the world,
Oh my
basically.
God.
So he decided back in 2001 he was going to reach the summit of Everest and send her all the way down. And he did the first time. He made it with the help of oxygen and two Sherpas who brought along his equipment. He spent about an hour hanging around the summit before beginning his descent. He was forced to, at that time, choose an alternate route to the one he considered the holy grail of snowboarding, which is known as the Hornbeam Couloir. But at that time, it didn't have enough snow. So he was forced to take the alternate route, took it, managed to make it all the way down. And a couple of years later, he was like, nah, we're going to try the real one this time.
Oh my
I've done it
God.
once. I'm going to do it again. And again, this is not a man who woke up one day, decided to take up snowboarding, and just send it down
He knew
the
what he was
tallest mountain
doing.
in the world. In theory, he knew exactly what he was doing
Yep.
and had a lot of experience doing so. So, early in August of 2002, just about a year later, he departed for Nepal, intending to make the first snowboard descent of Everest along the Hornbeam Couloir. It was late in the season for summiting Everest, but he hoped that the passage would have more snow if he waited later into the season. So the first time he had tried
That
in
makes
May,
sense. Yeah.
this time he tried in August. On August 10th, he left Kathmandu with 3 Sherpa, and he reached the base camp in Tibet on August 14th, 4 days later. On September 7th, about a month later, just under a month later, the group reached the advanced field, as it's called, at 27,200 feet. The next day, on the 8th of September 2002, Siffredi and his Sherpas reached the summit at 2:10 p.m. So at the time, though, the Sherpas were like pretty excited. They had reached the summit. They were getting ready to do it again, but Siffredi didn't seem overly enthusiastic about it, which they thought was a little bit strange. He was saying, I'm kind of tired. That was a lot of climbing.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, that last chunk had taken them 13 hours to do.
Holy crap.
So after the weather conditions began to change, the Sherpas urged him not to take the descent, that they were saying, look, things are changing too fast. And on one other occasion, he had actually tried to do a different face of Everest, but had not been able to because of high winds. And they
Mm-hmm.
were like, no, this is too dangerous. So about an hour after, they were like, it's getting worse. We don't want you to go. He began making his way towards the top of the Hornbeam after just 3 p.m., and his Sherpa companions lost sight of him. At North Col, about 1,300 meters below Camp 3, both of his Sherpas reported seeing the very distant image of a man fall down, stand up, and then slide silently down the mountain.
Oh.
As they reached the point of where they thought he had been sighted, his snowboard tracks ended, and that was it. He was never seen again. There was never ever any other tracks. That's it.
Oh my
He's gone.
God.
Boom, gone.
Well, I know even if you do die on Mount Everest, generally they just leave your body there.
Yeah, it's a lot like cave diving
Yeah.
stories because it's so difficult. First of all, it's difficult for you as an individual to get yourself up and down,
Mm-hmm.
to bring dead weight essentially
Yeah.
back with you. It definitely complicates things. And there's been people in the past who have died trying to retrieve a dead body,
Yeah.
in which case you now have 2 deaths,
Yes, exactly.
and it's just not worth it. Recently, as well, since we're talking about Everest, they have basically shut it down to most random people. Like, you can't just decide one day you want to climb Everest
That's
anymore.
probably a good
It's
thing.
absolutely a good thing. It's a very special mountain for the people of the area,
Yeah,
and right now it is covered in garbage.
it
It's a
is.
dump,
Yeah.
and every year when things freeze and melt and freeze and melt, all of the garbage, shall we say, human and otherwise,
Mhm.
comes swimming down off the mountain, and it's not very nice for the people at the bottom.
No, of course not.
So I'm glad, and as well, people, it's been done. You know,
Yeah.
you can't yes, you can do it in a faster time, or, people have done it blind, or there's, I think, folks without, like, limbs that have done
Mhm.
it even, and it's an amazing feat, but it doesn't need to be done again, in my humble opinion, as a non-mountain
Yeah, I
climber.
wouldn't do it. I don't know. I feel like if you had asked me, like, 15, 20 years ago,
Mm.
15, 10 years ago, I'm not that old, I would have been like, "Yeah, I'm gonna climb Mount Everest one day," and now I'm just like, "I'll stay home."
Mhm. Yeah, it's never been an interest for me. I'm happy to read about it. I
Yeah,
read about the other folks that have done it in the past. I think we need to leave the mountain alone, you
I'll
guys.
watch videos on it.
Mhm.
That's where I draw the line.
Absolutely.
We're so adventurous.
In some ways, yes, and in some ways, I'm like, "No, thank you.
Yeah,
That seems like a lot
that's
of
fair.
work."
Alright, so this is an interesting story, but sadly, it is not unique. This has been
Oh,
happening more often than one would assume.
okay.
A Harvard employee admits to selling brains, a human head, and other body parts stolen from the medical morgue.
Well, if you'd have this is very Igor Frankenstein
It is.
situation, but people have been doing this since we've been using cadavers in
Mhm.
universities. In fact, some of the first cadavers in university were from grave robbing.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
So this guy, he was accused of stealing them and selling them for a profit. He recently entered a guilty plea to a federal charge of interstate transport of human remains. His name is Cedric Lodge. He is 57 years old, and he was the manager of the Harvard Medical School morgue when he committed these offenses.
Uh-oh.
Over a 5-year period, he stole and sold head, brain, skin, bones, and other human remains to individuals with the knowledge of the medical school, according to a copy of a federal indictment.
That's such a shame because I feel like being the guy at Harvard morgue that just sort of overlooks everything, that sounds like a pretty chill and cushy job.
He's got to be getting paid well.
Why would you screw that up by selling the bits and
Yeah.
pieces?
A man in Pennsylvania paid Lodge's wife, Denise, $37,355.16 over a period of 3 years after she allegedly shipped him body parts that her husband took from the morgue. Those payments were sent via PayPal
Oh, guys.
and allegedly included memos such as head number 7 and brains.
You've got to be joking.
He also supplied a woman with skin that he knew she was sending to be tanned. The same woman also met him at the morgue on at least one occasion so he could provide her with 2 dissected faces.
Oh.
The parts were all taken from the cadavers of individuals who had donated their body to Harvard upon their death, and he would allegedly mine what he could after these cadavers had been used for research and teaching purposes, but before they could be disposed of. Harvard offers to cremate, bury, or return every donated body part that it receives, as per the wishes of the deceased or their family, and keeps a very careful record of this.
I should certainly hope so.
Attorney General Gerard M. Karam said in a statement, "Some crimes defy understanding. The theft and trafficking of human remains strikes at the very essence of what makes us human. It is particularly egregious that so many victims here have volunteered to allow their remains to be used to educate medical professionals and advance the interests of science and healing."
It is true though, because whenever we're talking about cadavers, it often makes me think of that guy whose mother had been donated to science. And then he later found out that instead of being used by Harvard or a similar medical school or that kind of thing, that she had been like sent to the Department of Justice and they were practicing like blowing her up
Yeah.
basically. And it's like, guys, as humans, we're very particular about our death wishes.
Mhm.
You kinda have to really vet who you have looking after dead
And you would
bodies.
think Harvard would be
I
like
mean,
a
the
safe
most
bet.
prestigious, I would
Yes.
say.
So they spoke to the daughter of a man named Nick Piskowitz, whose body parts were among those stolen and
Oh,
sold.
no.
She said that she called twice to determine if her dad was on the list of stolen remains. And she said, "We wanted to make sure it was right. We were hoping that it wasn't."
Oh.
She was left shocked and angry, and she feels extremely betrayed by the individuals as well as the school. At the time, they were working to get back the body of their mother, whose remains had also been donated to the school. So both of their parents were there. And they're very frustrated. She says, "Even now, I get this nauseous feeling. When I first heard about it, I wanted to throw up. It's just sickening that people can do this. It's crazy, messed up, and unimaginable." So he is going to be sentenced in the near little bit.
Okay.
And yeah, he made some cash.
It makes me very sad because, as I said before, was it really worth it to not only ruin your own life and career? He's probably gonna see some prison time, I would
Oh,
imagine,
absolutely.
and you've now put doubt into the minds of those that would have perhaps donated their
Mhm.
bodies or their loved ones' bodies in the hope of progressing science and
Yeah.
training doctors and all this stuff, and perhaps there's people who were on the fence about it,
Yeah, no, they're like,
and
"No."
now they're like, "No, absolutely not. If this is how you're gonna treat our dearly disparteds, we're not gonna do that anymore." And that's what makes me the saddest about
Yeah.
it. Obviously, tragic is someone's loved one seeing that your the body that you hoped maybe would go towards forwarding science has not been used for that purpose, and that makes me really sad as well.
I'm just shocked that he used PayPal
Like, come on.
and left the memos like head number 7, brains.
And it makes me wonder too, because when you had such sort of a random amount of cash, to the cents almost, I'm like, oh, how much could a human brain be worth? You'd think it'd be a nice round number.
Mhm.
But if they went to all the trouble to, like, not make it like even amounts of cash.
Yeah, like $200 for a toe,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, or
yeah.
whatever the case may be. But then you literally use PayPal.
Mhm.
You didn't even try to hide the fact that that's what you were selling. In fact, you advertised it. You don't have to leave a comment.
No,
You
you
could have it
don't.
could have just been sent money, no comment. So honestly, you dug your own grave for lack of a better phrase.
Mhm.
Good riddance.
Brutal.
I have oh my god, there was a bubble. I have a fun paleontologist one, and it's actually a little bit close to home for us. Apparently, nearly 8,000 dinosaur bones have been found in our very own Alberta.
That's so many bones.
Yeah. So I'm just going to read straight from the Avi Cohen article from the Sustainability Times from May 22nd, 2025. So literally just a few days ago. In a groundbreaking discovery that promises to reshape our understanding of prehistoric life, paleontologists in Alberta, Canada have unearthed a staggering 8,000 dinosaur bones in one of the world's densest fossil sites. So they have been discovered in a massive site that they're kind of coining the River of Death,
Ooh.
because it literally is a river of dinosaur bones where they've all sort of died in one sort of mass area. It's believed to have been created by a flash flood that wiped out a massive, massive herd of, now bear with me, pachyrhinosaurin dinosaurs about 72 million years ago. And because they were taken out all at once in exactly the same area, it's a really awesome snapshot of what was happening
Yeah.
72 million years ago. Um, it's from the Cretaceous period, if that helps you, and it's currently informing potential climate models of what was happening at the time, because they're like, well, if this massive, massive flash flood appeared, what caused that?
Yeah.
It isn't quite a brand new site. It was initially uncovered by a local high school teacher in 1974, but it's become such a hot spot for paleontologists and bone enthusiasts alike. The site continues to yield groundbreaking finds, shedding a light on a world that existed so many millions of years ago. And they're going to continue searching to try and figure out a little more about what happened to this massive herd. They know it was a flash flood.
Where in Alberta is this? Is this in, like, the Drumheller area?
Yes, it
Okay.
is, which is known for being
Yeah.
just a wealth of fossils. Let me get the specific area here. Bear with me.
I've never been to Drumheller. We're actually hoping to go this summer.
Oh, you absolutely
Oh,
have
yeah, I
to.
really, really want
I
to.
went to the dinosaur museum, the Royal Tyrrell Museum, a long, long time ago as a kid, and I'd love to go back. And they're actually, it's a good time to go because the big dinosaur guy, the big T Rex that you
Yeah,
can go in, they're apparently closing it
I
down.
know, I heard that.
So if you are in the area or you're going to be visiting the Drumheller area anytime soon, do so ASAP because the big dinosaur won't be there. I think they're saying 2029. So you've got a few more years.
I wonder what they're gonna do with him.
I just imagine that he's going to be in a scrapyard somewhere.
No.
I hope someone buys him or something.
If I had, like, a giant plot of land,
Just have him.
yes,
Yeah,
guard
absolutely.
dinosaur.
Why not? But yeah, so I always kind of forget that massive dinosaur discoveries are so close to us here in Alberta,
It's amazing.
but it's super, super cool. And if, like I said, you're in the area and you get to check it out, please do so because it's super cool.
Alright, my next story has to do with an execution,
Oh.
and the reason why I wanted to talk about this execution is because this was a pretty big deal when it comes to killers.
Oh,
I'd never heard of him. So they called him the Casanova Killer, and he
okay.
was executed decades after he claimed to kill over 70 victims.
I'm assuming Casanova means he hunted women,
Yes.
and they often do, but it
Yeah.
makes sense.
So this was in Florida.
Okay,
Surprise,
go
surprise.
figure.
They're always in Florida.
Go figure.
His name was Glenn Rogers. He was 62. He was executed by lethal injection at 6:16 p.m. Last Thursday evening.
Oh, wow.
He was a self-proclaimed serial killer. So he's one of those that just talks a little bit too
Oh.
much. So it's one of those things where it's like, do
Hmm.
you believe him? Do you not believe him? I don't know. But he once told law enforcement that he killed over 70 women, and they dubbed him the Casanova Killer because he had a habit of meeting women in local bars, charming them, and then getting them into his car before he attacked.
Got it.
He was sentenced back in 1977 after he was convicted of first-degree murder, armed robbery, and grand theft of a motor vehicle following the death of 34-year-old Tina Marie Cribbs. He attempted to overturn his guilty verdict 3 times but was unsuccessful. So, he tries to say he's not guilty,
Yeah.
but says he killed over 70 women. So
It
right away there, I'm just like, "Okay, dirtbag."
dirtbag either way, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, absolutely. So he had met her in a bar in Tampa and he convinced her to drive him home. And she told her friends that she'd be back in 15 minutes,
Mm.
never returned. She was a mother of 2,
No.
and they knew something was really wrong when she failed to meet her mom that evening or show up for work the next morning. Her body was discovered a few days later in a Tampa motel room that was rented by Rogers.
Mm.
They said that she was found lying on her back in the bathtub. She was clothed, wearing a damp t shirt, underwear, and socks. On the bathroom floor, authorities found a damp pile of clothes and blood-stained towels. She had been stabbed to death, and there were evidence of defensive wounds.
So they got him for her murder, and
Yes.
then he spoke about these alleged other
Yeah.
murders then. Interesting.
She also had items missing from her. She was missing a ring and a watch, along with her car, and Rogers was driving a week later when he was arrested in Kentucky. He actually did receive another death sentence
Oh.
for another murder in 1999 for killing Sandra Gallagher. Same story. He met her in a bar, and a day later, her badly burned corpse was found in her truck near his apartment.
Ah.
One of the victim's sisters says he is an animal. He's about the evilest thing I ever imagined.
Yeah, fair enough.
So the reason why I wanted to talk about this is this little piece of information that I thought was interesting.
Mm.
He claimed to be responsible for the murders of over 70 women, and then
Yes.
years later, his brother said that he told him that he was responsible for the 1994 murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman.
Well, isn't that a connection?
A spokesperson for the Los Angeles Police Department dismissed that claim and said that he was confident that someone else was responsible for their deaths. I wonder who.
Yeah, exactly.
On April 16th, a death warrant was signed for him, and he has been suspected of killing at least 5 other
Oh,
people with
wow.
legitimate evidence, but they never
Okay.
really were able to find that out. He tried to appeal the death sentence by saying that he was abused as a child. However, those memories were only unlocked after he received his death sentence, and this was the 5th execution in Florida so far this year, which is a lot.
That is a lot. It's interesting that he's been locked up since the 90s, but only just receiving it now. Like, as we know, you can sit on death row for a very
Yeah.
long time. And some guys die before they even
Mhm.
meet an execution date, obviously. But that's a long time to wait because we're talking 30 years nearly.
What it looks like happened is some of these people, they get sentenced to death and they're like, "Okay,
Mm. Mhm.
sure." But then you have these guys where they just file appeal after appeal after
Oh,
appeal.
yes, and drag it
Yes,
out.
or they say, "Hey, you know what? I have evidence that I actually killed over 70 people." So then
If
that
you
spurs
kill me, then I
yes,
can't tell you where they
exactly,
are.
and that also
Mm.
buys them time while they investigate those claims. So I have a feeling that's what happened with this
I would
guy,
imagine
and
so.
that's why it took so long.
Well, good riddance to this one too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He sounds like a real dirtbag as well.
And with that, I've been trying to keep up with the Scott Peterson Innocence
Oh,
Project. They have
yes.
not released any more information yet, so I have
Oh.
been watching that like a hawk because I really want to know what
Well, yeah,
happens.
and it's been a good month or so since we talked about it
Yeah,
last, I think. So I thought for sure there would be something, but I guess these things get dragged out too.
they do. And going along with that, we didn't really address this on the show quite yet because it was kind of a shorter statement to be made. But the Menendez brothers have been resentenced.
They have,
So
yes.
now, rather than life in prison without the possibility of parole, now they have the ability to apply for parole. And it sounds like they're going to be doing that as soon as
I
possible.
would certainly imagine
Yeah.
so. It would be very unusual and silly of them to fight for resentencing this whole time and then be like, "Nah, you know, we're just not gonna bother."
Yeah.
But, yeah, interesting to see. I'm sure they will, set out for parole as soon as they humanly possibly
Yeah.
can, so I'm sure we'll hear more about that too.
The problem is right now there's a lot of stuff happening politically. And so they're
Yes,
saying,
that is
well, you know what,
true.
the governor right now might not want to grant that because it might affect his chances at reelection, blah,
That's
blah,
true,
blah.
that's true.
So I don't know if there is a chance that they're gonna wait.
I think they would, and I'm sure their legal teams and everything too will advise them
Yeah.
as appropriately as possible, but I would imagine they'll wait for an appropriate time
Yeah,
or the best time for them at least.
definitely.
We'll see what comes of that.
Yeah, we'll keep y'all posted. With that, we have our next strange and unusual death. We're going to go far back
Oh.
to 1888 today.
Oh, we love an old timey.
Yeah, and this is I thought was very Final Destination-y as well.
Okay, so on topic.
Yes. The only person ever killed by a meteorite.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. So if you're wondering, what are your chances of getting killed by a meteorite? One astronomer put the odds of death by a space rock at 1 in 700,000 in a lifetime, while others are saying it's more like 1 in 600,000 in a lifetime, which still not
That's
likely.
not likely, but still more likely than I thought.
Oh, yeah.
To be honest, I thought you were gonna be like 1 in 11 billion or
Yeah.
something.
No, I guess it can happen.
That sub 1,000,000 is kind of, I don't know, I'm slightly more concerned than I was before.
You should be. So, researchers combing through the dusty archives from the Republic of Turkey found credible records of someone being killed by falling meteorite in a region of Iraq.
Right on.
On August 22nd, 1888, multiple documents found in the General Directorate of State Archives of the Presidency of the Republic of Turkey recorded that a meteorite hit and killed one man while paralyzing another.
Oh.
The reason why this wasn't discovered until now, because they
Mhm.
just found out about this,
Okay.
was because the documents were written in an old Ottoman Turkish language, which borrows from both Arabic and Persian, and it is very hard to translate.
Oh, well, there's probably so few people left around that are able to translate it.
Yes.
Oh my god.
So there were multiple letters that were found with this information, and
Mhm.
using a word by word translation method where they first translated the documents into Turkish and then English, they were able to find 3 separate letters that described the incident.
Okay.
So they said a strong bright light was accompanied by smoke and traveled towards a village, and it fell for a period about 10 minutes like rain. As an unfortunate consequence, one man was killed and the other was seriously injured. Also, crops were damaged in a manner consistent with a fireball shockwave.
Holy cow.
They also said that the meteorites were found on a hill near the village. Although the translation was not completely clear, so they're not super sure. They sent specimens of the meteorites to local government, but no further documentation of any specimens have been found so far.
It almost sounds like a big meteorite was coming in and then
Yeah.
exploded, and then sort of obviously the unfortunate gentleman got shrapnel,
Yeah.
which ended their lives, and then to have it sort of rain down and cause fire and
Mhm.
stuff. Crazy.
They said this event is the first report ever that states a meteor impact killed a man in history. Due to the fact that these documents are from official government sources and written by local authorities, we do not have any suspicion on their reality.
I love that because we often talk about old-timey crimes. They're some of my favorites,
Mhm.
but one of the big issues with them is your forensics and stuff and
Yeah.
your technology and all the advances we've made in medicine were just not there. So sometimes it's good in the sense that it very much simplifies your story. He was stabbed, he died,
Yeah.
right? There's really no more to it. But the unfortunate thing is the records of these events just don't exist because they've either been destroyed over time or no one wrote them down in the first place, or if it was a more oral history, the story's been sort of warped over time. So to see an actual like government
Yeah.
document to be
Especially
like,
that old.
yes, that's insane, and that's super super cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
Rest in peace, that guy.
Yeah, and rest in pieces the meteorite, I
Yeah.
guess.
True.
Okay.
All right, everyone, make sure you follow us on social media.
Yeah.
We are on all the platforms. We also have merch available on Threadless. It's threadless. What is
Oh my god.
it?
Like threadless.thegrimcurriculum.com?
Or is it the Grim Curriculum?
Okay. Thegrimcurriculum.threadless.com.
Thank you, Charlotte. We are also on Etsy. Tons of great merch available. All of the designs are made by the one, the only Charlotte. They're
Me.
fantastic. And check that out. It's a great way to support the show.
Yeah.
Also, check out our Patreon. We've got a ton of stuff up there.
Mhm.
And we appreciate all of the love and support. So thank you all so much. And thank you very much for listening. This has been the Grim Curriculum. Extra credit.
Credit. Bye.
Bye.